Why would the United States, the world's most powerful military superpower, care about a massive island covered mostly in ice? Why did American leaders seriously discuss buying it? Why does it keep showing up in strategic conversations? Because Greenland isn't about ice. It's about missiles. It's about China. It's about Russia. And it's about the future battlefield of the Arctic. And if you understand Greenland, you understand where global power is shifting next. Greenland is the world's largest island. It's geographically part of North America. Politically, it's an autonomous territory of Denmark. Population? About 56,000 people. Land mass? Larger than Mexico. For decades, Greenland seemed irrelevant, frozen, isolated, economically limited. But geography never stops mattering in geopolitics. And Greenland's geography is becoming priceless. Climate change is opening Arctic sea routes. Shipping between Asia and Europe through the Arctic can be significantly shorter than using the Suez Canal. Shorter routes mean less fuel, faster trade, strategic leverage. The Arctic is no longer a frozen barrier. It's becoming a highway. And whoever influences Arctic choke points gains enormous power over future trade. Greenland sits right in the middle of that transformation. Here's something most people don't realize. If nuclear missiles were launched between the US and Russia, they would likely travel over the Arctic. That makes Greenland strategically critical for early warning systems. The United States already operates Patuxent Space Base, formerly Thule Air Base, in northwest Greenland, one of the most important missile warning and space surveillance installations in the world. Why? Because from Greenland, America can track ballistic missile launches, monitor Arctic airspace, detect potential threats faster. In nuclear strategy, minutes matter. Greenland gives those minutes, and that alone makes it invaluable. Now, add Russia to the equation. Russia has heavily militarized its Arctic coastline. It has reopened Soviet-era bases, expanded Arctic airfields, built advanced air defense systems, invested in the world's largest icebreaker fleet. Moscow sees the Arctic as an economic and military frontier. If the Arctic becomes a major global shipping corridor, Russia wants control. For Washington, that means one thing. You cannot ignore Greenland while Russia fortifies the north. Then there's China. China officially calls itself a near-Arctic state. Beijing has invested in Arctic research, infrastructure proposals, and mining opportunities. Why would China care? Because Arctic shipping reduces reliance on US-controlled sea lanes. Rare earth minerals are abundant in Greenland. Long-term energy access matters. If China builds economic influence in Greenland, it gains a strategic foothold in the North Atlantic. That alarms Washington, not because Greenland is powerful, but because influence there shifts Arctic balance. Greenland isn't just ice. It holds rare earth elements, uranium iron ore, potential offshore oil and gas. Rare earths are critical for electric vehicles, military technology, missiles, advanced electronics. Right now, China dominates global rare earth processing. If Greenland becomes a major supplier, it could weaken that dominance, which means Greenland is part of the global tech competition, not just Arctic politics. This might sound shocking, but the US has considered purchasing Greenland multiple times in history. Why? Because in strategic thinking, territory equals leverage. In the 19th and 20th centuries, great powers acquired land to control trade routes and military positioning. Today, outright purchases are politically explosive. But the logic hasn't changed. Control of geography still equals power projection, and Greenland is strategic real estate. Let's be clear. There is no realistic scenario where the United States invades Greenland. Why? Because it is part of Denmark, a NATO ally. It would destroy alliance credibility. It would hand propaganda victories to rivals. It would fracture Western unity. The US doesn't need to invade Greenland. It already has military access. What it wants is influence, not occupation. Modern geopolitics is less about conquest and more about infrastructure deals, mining rights, military basing agreements, investment leverage. If Washington ensures NATO presence remains strong, Chinese infrastructure projects are limited, Russian military expansion is monitored, then it achieves its objective without firing a shot. That's 21st century power politics. The world's focus has been on the Middle East, the South China Sea, Eastern Europe. But quietly, the Arctic is emerging as a new arena. As ice melts, trade routes open, resource competition increases, military presence expands, and Greenland becomes central to all of it. So why would the United States ever want Greenland? Not for tourism, not for colonization, not for ice, but for missile defense, Arctic trade control, resource access, strategic positioning against Russia and China. Greenland is not powerful by itself, but in geopolitics, location is power. And in the coming decades, the Arctic may matter more than the Middle East ever did. The countries that prepare now will shape the northern frontier of global power.